Hello, welcome to another episode of the Live Cost Construction Experience. Delighted to be joined by the Director of Communications of the CIF, Shane Dempsey. Shane, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you? Are you surviving?
Yeah, well, not bad, not bad. I think we're sort of starting to see a little bit of a finish line. Well, that's what we're being told, that there is a
Mm.
little bit of a finish line. And then I was reading reports. I was actually speaking to a couple of lads this morning that are running big jobs who are fearful that the start date could be pushed back. And
Yeah.
I suppose, I don't know, have you heard anything on that front that we might be looking at an extension, or has
Yeah.
anything been talk?
Oh, look, I've heard a lot, and there's been lots of talk and lots of rumors, and just from talking to other industries, not construction, but other industries that have been shut down across Europe. Most time is spent discussing when can we open again, when can we open again. Ireland was the only one of the only construction industries I think in the world to shut down, so there's obviously a huge amount of interest and concern about it because the construction industry is one that could keep the economy going, could lessen the economic impact. But there are a lot of people looking for a big announcement on Tuesday, the 5th of May. So I can confirm on the basis of my own experience on this thing and a few other crises like this I've worked on. There won't be a big announcement on the 5th of May opening up all the construction sites again. Well, I think what's going to happen is there'll be some sort of announcement on Friday before the bank holiday weekend. They will be obviously downplaying any kind of sense of let's relax, we're nearly there because there's a bank holiday weekend, so we
Yeah,
have to keep the head down for the weekend. That's going to be part of it. But I think what you'd see on Friday and then probably on the Tuesday is you'll get the first clear indication of where the finish line is on the immediate lockdown, we'll say. Now, that could be 2 weeks off. And I've said from the outset, based on other countries' experience and the WHO model that the HSE are working off, when they introduced the full lockdown and when the peak of the pandemic happened, or this peak of the pandemic happened, my prediction was May 22nd, we'd see construction, open up again. So now, and I'm totally speculating here, so I don't want to
yeah,
get in
yeah.
trouble or upset anybody, but on the 5th of May, you might get a sense that they will say, this is the date when we can relax things slightly, but it'll be heavily provisoed with only on the basis that a construction project is safe. And then I think they'll go as far to say, so to ensure that construction is safe, clients, construction companies, possibly the unions, possibly the HSA will have to sit down and figure out if sites are safe or not to operate. If they're not, they shouldn't be opened. If they are, then there'll probably be a period naturally on the bigger sites anyway, where you'd have to take a week or two to get them up and running again.
But
So,
that seems to be the big word chain there is that bit of a lead in time that like we're speaking to a lot of our own customers, and there's a bit of a have you heard anything, do you know anything, sort of that talk going on. Yeah, even not just on the contractor side but even on the supplier side. We had Mark Lowton on here on
oh yeah,
Friday. Mark was just saying the same thing, is like what we can't have is this, big opening day type situation where everybody just gets slammed. We need to ramp this up. I mean, and I suppose that's what people want to know. And is there an announcement coming, or is there a ramp up phase date coming? And that's where seems to be the bit of confusion. But that you're expecting that we'll get more of a ramped up approach.
yeah, as in, yeah, it won't be a big bang.
Yeah,
It'll probably be. See, the government have been assiduous throughout the whole process in putting the final decision on the court of the contractor and the client. So, clients who classify themselves as essential services in power, utility, data, etc., they've always had the power to say we're essential. And once they did that, they could bring construction work on. Now, most of them were very prudent and, were very concerned about the safety of workers, etc., as we all were, and also the court of public opinion. They've seen what happened with Keelings and a few other companies that have went back too soon, even though Keelings could hand on heart say they're an essential service. The court of public opinion is kind of quick to judge, and you have to be very, very careful, especially in the current conditions when people are genuinely afraid. So companies will be weighing up all of that stuff, but I think any decision or any call on the 5th of February or 5th of May will be around, it's now okay for construction companies and their clients and possibly the HSA to look at construction projects, assess if they're safe, put in place the CIF's standard operating procedure as much as possible. And once you guys, the industry and the client are happy, you can do this safely, then we're not going to stop you. It's probably the tenure of the government statement or any statement around. But equally, if figures go badly, things happen. The weekend, the bank holiday weekend is poor, and there was a lag a couple of weeks ago, and those figures start to come through in cases. You could see the announcement on the 5th of May being the nearest date is May 22nd, but nothing else is changing before then.
That's the fear, isn't it? Yeah. That is the fear. I mean, what sites have you seen that stayed open?
Well, none that I'd specifically mentioned, but there were a number of contractors out providing facilities management services to larger sites. I think I wouldn't be betraying any confidences to say the pharmaceutical sector and the other essential services, but particularly pharmaceutical, medical devices, those companies kept going. And then I think our construction companies our members were providing generally facilities management. There would have been a couple of companies just on site, making sure the site is locked down, safe, generators are okay, there's no flooding going on, no pilferage, that kind of work. And then of course we had last week the welcome news that 35 social housing projects started again, 30 in the east and 5 in the south. So they were on housing, social housing that was like within a couple of weeks had been finished. It was nearly safer to finish them off. The rationale there, again, it was the client who classified the projects as essential. And they said that by taking people out of emergency accommodation and putting them into social housing, you were helping stop the spread of COVID amongst a very vulnerable group. So that's why I think that's why there wasn't a huge backlash against that.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, people are using practicality there, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if we do get that sort of slow, ramped up approach that you're suggesting that might be what's coming, I mean, what are we looking at here? Do you think it'll become down to what is the most essential site, likes of social housing? Do you think that's how they might phase us back in? Yeah,
well, you see, I think the government will give that general kind of, if you can prove it's safe, you can open up the sites again, and then what I think it'll be in the court of the contractor and the client then in that case. So number one, the client will have to be comfortable with opening. So I'm taking you through a kind of a decision-making kind of criteria almost. The client will have to be happy with it first. The contractor will be eager to go, of course, but I think the client and the contractor will then have to say, well, let's look at the site. Some jobs will be easier than others. Let's look at the site and see which sites we can put the least amount of time and effort in to make them meet the safety criteria. And I think the whole thing will be underwrote by a concern around safety, because these guys recognise if we go back too soon or we go back on site and we haven't secured it and made it safe, or our employees aren't used to the new standard operating procedure, and all of them haven't been through the induction, they recognise that they're likely to face problems. And the court of public opinion, as I'm saying, there are people watching, and construction workers are high visibility. It's in the name and the jacket. They're high vis jackets. They're very, very visible. So there'll be no easy ride at all. So I think companies will be weighing up that the public opinion, the cost, the sites that are easiest to follow. But I think the government, the housing agency, I should say, made the call that this is an emergency service in social housing. But you could see that expanding out to all social housing now, and then residential that's not. On the same sites as these social housing places. Once they've proved they can work, it's a good way of embedding the standard operating procedures that the CIF produced.
I've had a read of the standard operating procedures document. Very well written, very well put together. There will be loads of questions that'll come at it. I mean, who's responsible to implement that, I suppose, is the first question that would come up. I mean, if we're in a situation, we've got the client on one side, contract on the other, who's taking responsibility to put these new procedures in place?
Yeah, I think the contractor is very eager. Most contractors are eager to return to work. They have faith in that standard operating procedure because it's been around the CIF safety committee, 12 iterations, 50 members on the committee. It's been passed by global heads of construction for well-known MNCs in Dublin. It's been passed by international safety experts, so there's a real confidence around that document. But it's a document and it's a guidance note and it's not a permission to work. It's kind of sit down with your client. On the first page of it, it says, there's a client responsibility here. So it's really it's a discussion document rather than a license to work. So the responsibility is just, from our perspective, is going to have to be shared. The burden of some of these measures are going to have to be shared between clients and contractors and house builders. And of course, some clients have more flexibility, scope, bandwidth, capacity, finances to absorb and work with their contractors to note where the productivity issues might be and the timelines might be and the delays might be, and to put that in a box and then say, we'll deal with that afterwards. Let's get the site up and running again. Let's get this thing built. Other clients won't be as collaborative. And we've been working behind the scenes quite openly, if you know what I mean, with government on public sector contracts to really get the message out to the contracting authorities that they have to engage with us on this and that there will be some delay. Now, there will be delay putting these measures in place. That's inevitable. And I think most people accept that. But what will be really unnecessary and really damaging for Ireland Inc. as well as the industry is if there's a layer of legal disputes and, the kind of question you're asking, who's responsible? If that question prefaces, a return to work, we're going to lose 2 or 3 weeks. And personally, if I was a contractor and I'd arrange a clients and some were private and some were public, and the private sector guys were willing to work with me and share the burden and the public sector weren't, that might start to impinge on your decision making about what projects to start off with.
We've got a small presence in the UK sector as well, and speaking to guys on the ground there seems to be pressure being put on from the large tier 1 guys who want to keep going, who are under contract from their client, and it's a subcontractor that doesn't want to go in, doesn't feel like it's the right thing to do, and they're being pressurised, legally being pressurised to get back to work. So I hope we don't end up in that situation, but I mean, it looks like we're heading the right road. On that sort of safety point, then I'll just roll you back to something you touched on, was the C19 induction.
Yeah.
Can you explain that? I mean, how it works, how do people access it?
Yeah. Well, it's I suppose it's open to anyone in the industry. In fact, we're asking that everyone should complete the induction program before they go back. We've asked our members to make it as mandatory as possible, so it's a guidance note. The induction is part of an overall guidance we have about getting back to work. It's not statutory or anything like that, but there's nearly a bigger compunction to do it now, because if you don't, I don't think we're going to pass the safety test for the government and for the public. So the message is, do the induction. It's open for you there. I'm sure there'll be loads of people calling saying, but sure, we can't get on the site to do it. Because we've made it open, I think on the first day we opened it, 40,000 people landed in on the site to get the thing done. It just shows how eager people are to get back to work. So we've had to prioritise those guys who are currently working on site in some of the essential projects we've talked about and in the social housing. So at different times over the weekend, we've been kind of removing access to the public and letting hundreds of guys who'll be working on Monday and Tuesday onto the site to get covered. So we've had to do that, and it's a positive thing to see so many people interested in signing up. So as of last count, we had about 17,500 digital cards issued to people. So we're getting there. If we've 2 weeks to do this, we're aiming to get tens of thousands of workers to go through the process. So we're on course.
And has this been set up as an extra precaution, or do we think it'll get to a point where we can't enter a site without having this induction?
It's very much around the awareness raising and the education piece. So you'll have seen all the COVID HSE guidelines on social distancing and so on. This is the industry's version of that. So in any plans I'm seeing about remobilising the industry on our behalf, on the behalf of the unions and the government, there is this induction concept. So we were kind of ahead of the game in that we started designing it weeks ago, and we're promoting it heavily. Just one other thing for your listeners, we've pulled together all the guidance notes that we've been given to the CIF membership for the last 4 or 5 weeks. There's about 50 of them in all, constantly evolving as things change. Will we shut down, won't we shut down, different documents were coming out, and we were just guiding our members along throughout the whole process. So I think this evening we've gathered a couple of those key documents together, and we're going to send it out to as many people in the industry and just make it open to people, because so I'll send you a copy, and if you could send it through to your listeners, that'd be great. Because on the safety thing, there is no CIF membership or non-membership. The industry is as strong as its weakest link, so we want to get everyone au fait with this safety stuff. So the induction is it's 10 minutes. It takes you through the key parts about social distancing and so on. The standard operating procedure document at last counted had something like 5,000 downloads. So we think that that's generally company owners downloading it, subcontractors and so on, so they can talk to their employees, but also talk to the main contractors and their clients about what the industry or what the project should look like afterwards. And then the final thing we're running, which is pertinent, is the series of webinars on standard operating procedure and a bit of guidance for the poor guy who's going to be assigned as the COVID compliance officer now. So that's part of the standard operating procedure. It's not a hugely onerous task, but a lot of responsibility.
So that's on the contractor side, that one. So you got your COVID compliance officer. Is that appointed by the contractor?
I think it's going to be the contractor. But I'd say there'd be nothing to stop, a subcontractor with a number of guys on site having their representative. From what I understand, there might be people or unionised workers that might be a COVID compliance type officer as well. So there will be a couple of people monitoring it on site. I'd imagine it'll be the existing health and safety officer that will have this added to their list of tasks or work program. They should be visible.
That's probably going to be the best practice then, Shane, as well, when we get down to the smaller sites. And that's a huge question which some of our guys have been thrown at us, is that that smaller scale, the non-tier 1 project, is it a case of whoever's in charge of health and safety today needs to take on this extra responsibility?
I'd say inevitably that's what will happen. On the bigger sites, they'll probably still assign it to a health and safety person, but on the smaller sites, the foreman can be your COVID compliance officer as well, as long as he's au fait with what he needs to be looking for. And the way to do that is read the standard operating procedure and go through the induction program, which people are doing in their thousands at the moment. So look, it'll be like anything else in the industry. It'll be harder. It'll be harder for the smaller guys to comply, but it's nearly as important that they do they do comply as much as humanly possible, because on the safety thing and with this the spread of the virus, it doesn't matter whether you're in a big site or a small site or in the region or in Dublin, it's non-discriminate. So everyone needs to adopt it as much as possible. We've tried to reflect that in what's practicable and applicable in the standard operating procedure,
The big hurdle, I think, in there, Shane, will be the social distancing one. A lot of it seems very, very achievable. The social distance one is a huge challenge. I mean, the one that comes to my mind straight away is two guys putting a slab up onto a ceiling. I mean, how can we possibly social distance them? I mean, what is the word there? Because we're going to get a lot of guys who'll give kickback on that and say there's just situations that we just can't do it. I mean, what's the general advice for them type of tasks?
Yeah, well, in the standard operating procedure, there's so based on the HSE's guidelines on social distancing and the experience around the world, that obviously at certain times, there has to be, a lack of social distance, if you will. You have to go into the meter. You have to go between 2 meter and a meter, and sometimes you have to go meter to meter. But very, very few cases you have to be within a meter of a person. They do it when you get out to the kitchen there. It's strange to stand within a meter of someone that closely. But on certain tasks, it can't be avoided. So I think there's then advice that you should be wearing PPE where possible, and also you limit your time within that sphere. So we were talking to an international expert who specialized in particle distribution. He was an occupational hygienist, and he's specialized in this, and he said the real danger being within the distance is the particles from your mouth while you're talking to someone. Working side by side is nearly safer than within that space. So there's a couple of processes you should go through in terms of your safety review, though, which is a full analysis of the site and the project to see, look, where are those pinch points going to be? Where are we going to really struggle to do the social distancing? So then you can identify who's going to be at risk within that kind of bracket, and you can coach them and talk to them about how to do it safely and how to operate. So it's all writ large in there. To minimise any danger to employees.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose that it works as well. I mean, a lot of guys would have tool sharing going on as well, stuff like that. Yeah. So it just going to have to make changes and have to figure out ways of how we can get around this. I suppose on the employee side, then, I mean, if employee finds himself in a situation where he's been asked to do something he doesn't feel safe, I mean, what can he do? Yeah.
Well, that's it. In the note. And the standard operating procedure, we've said if the work isn't safe, first of all, you've done your review, you've done all your analysis, and if the work isn't safe, don't do it. That was the message to the employer and to the contractor. But the message in the guidance document and the induction as well is, if you don't feel safe and you think it's not safe, then you point it out like you would normally, like you'd advise, employees to do it normally. You highlight it, you identify it. The COVID compliance officer should be wearing he should be known to you, but he should be wearing a green on the bigger sites. He should be wearing a green high vis, and you should identify the issue. And then what should happen is there should be a little analysis and review of the task to see if it can be done more safely, or if the issue can be addressed, and that person will have the standard operating procedure. So, like normal safety culture, if you will, you have to say it when you see it, kind of thing,
Yeah, I mean, because that's going to apply to, the social distancing thing is going to apply to canteens and other washrooms, toilets, etc. I mean, we simply need more canteens, more washrooms on site. Is that the answer?
I think there has to be. And companies will have been looking at this, just the volume of people on site. You have to, on the bigger projects, well, even the smaller ones, you have to have some cognizance and assessment of the volume of people going through on the site. So that's why we'd be advising, people to slowly release, and increase the numbers on sites on different projects. and see how the work flows. Some companies can use technology to monitor how workers are flowing. Some people have set up one-way systems, but you just have to be cognizant of the numbers on site. Part of your assessment has to be, if I'm at full capacity, can social distancing occur, except in those exceptional circumstances we mentioned before? And again, if you can't, then you need to keep your headcount at that level, and you can see it like on housing projects. You can see teams will be able to go into rooms at one at a time, or but that'll still slow things down, because you get to the end of a housing development, there's different teams doing different things all over the place. So there will be some productivity issues, and there will be some timeline, pressure on timelines. But again, that reverts all the way back to the initial piece of advice. Use the standard operating procedure to show your client the reality of what you're facing now. And that document should help a lot, because if everyone's being reasonable and collaborative, and we're trying to work whilst not spreading the virus, people should be willing to work on that document,
Yeah, I mean, there's a challenge ahead, a real challenge ahead. I mean, you've touched on how you sort of see this, your own opinion, how you see this playing out in the coming weeks. I mean, what about months? What about a more of a longer term view? And in your own opinion, what do you think the repercussions are?
Yeah, well, from a contract perspective, it's now out there that there's a pandemic, and that there may be a number of waves to it, and a number of peaks and troughs, and then many regional outbreaks and so on. So all of that now has to be risked in and factored in. So you have to be so careful now, because you have to balance obviously tendering and getting the best price and so on, and the reality of, so you need to be very careful on your contracts going forward. On the key challenge will be, I suppose, using technology to assist in monitoring workers who they've been in contact with, contact tracing, etc., etc. So the HSE are launching their contact tracing app in the next month, and I'd be advocating everyone going on site to download the app. We're looking at a few technological solutions ourselves, but if you look at the Far Eastern countries, Taiwan, South Korea, and so on, they were able to reduce the very blunt social distancing approach they were able to replace it and alleviate it through really aggressive contact tracing and testing. So that international expert I was mentioning earlier on, he was saying in the US they have a self-administered test that you can get a result in 15 minutes. So you could see a situation where a guy is self-administering the test and then going into site, and everyone on site being cleared of COVID kind of thing. So that kind of takes the asymptomatic silent carrier thing out of it. And every morning you could be doing those tests on critical projects. So I think that's going to be, and it's funny, something that sounds so costly and, time consuming and so on, that's nearly a better solution than social distancing, because social distancing is so hard for our industry to work with, and any industry, I have to say. So I think we get a couple of waves of this. It'll need to be factored in contracts henceforth. And I think, like everything else, some of the standard operating procedure, which we've just created for the duration of the pandemic, some of the stuff that's put in place will just become de rigueur. So even from planning for future contracts, you should be using that SOP document to go, look, this is likely to be the pace we're going to have to work at over the next year. We better factor that in, So underlaying that SOP is a huge financial consideration, a productivity consideration. And I'm just hoping that, and you see it already, the technological solutions are just people sending me, different apps and different kind of wristbands and all of this Bluetooth technology, Internet of Things. You can see that this might be a thing, or the pandemic might be a thing that actually drives technology into the construction industry. So it's just going to be very interesting. I think the companies who adapt that and embrace that, like the companies who embrace BIM, etc., will probably be the ones that come out of this the best,
Yeah, it certainly feels that way. It definitely feels like there's been a shift. I mean, we live in that world ourselves, and it definitely feels like there's a shift to maybe we need to look more seriously at what other solutions we have and how can technology aid some of the problems that we have. This is a moving target. It feels like it's going to change by the week and by the month, and but you've given us a great snapshot of where it sits as of today. And I suppose if anything does change, Shane, it'd be great if you could keep our guys up to date as well.
Absolutely, I'd love to. I just want to thank I want to thank all the CIF members for the amount of knowledge they've given us in the last couple of weeks, because it's enabled us to make this standard operating procedure that I think has put the industry in prime position to go back to work early, which is incredibly valuable. But also on the induction program, we've been using one of the tech firms you're talking about, a company called Go Contractor. And they do online induction and so on. So they've done the induction for us for gratis. So I'd just like to thank them for that, because they've done the industry a big service on that.
Great company. They are a great company.
Yeah, I think so. And
Shane,
thanks to yourself as well for keeping the communications going.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your time, and we all hope that we can bring clients, contractors, subcontractors, the whole industry together, because there's going to be change. People need to be flexible, and we just hope that there isn't any big fallouts, and we can try and just keep. And the term seems to be we're in this together, but it really feels that way. That if we can just keep it together, that we can actually try and get through this. I think battles will be the wrong road to go. We don't want to end up in legal disputes, because it's really isn't the place that we need. It's not going to solve this particular issue for us. Shane, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.